tire and your paint. Whole paint. Later, we're going to try to talk to NHRA funny car driver Fast Jack Beckman about a new video series he's put together called Jack Beckman's Hot Rod History. Inside our new car showroom, Cadillac XT6 and the Buick Encore. We give you an in-depth review of each of those. We've got this week's automotive news and more just ahead on today's 2-hour in-wheel time car show for Saturday, August 15th, 2020. Howdy. Along with Mike out of this world, Mars, and King Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us today. And as usual, we've had a last-second hiccup with our Zoom. And we're trying to figure out what the problem is because John Gray is...
John Gray is with us, but we can't hear him.
Yeah, and so there's an issue, and Mr. Mars is frantically... No, not frantically. Mr. Mars is going to try to work that out. But I wanted to also give you a little preview of something that we're going to start promoting today, and that is a podcast series that is called... Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story. It's a new podcast, and we're going to talk about, well, the podcast is going to talk about the rise, the fall, and the rebirth of the Ford Bronco. And I got a chance to listen to it, and at least the first episode of it, because it's a multi-episode podcast. And it is excellently done, and I think that you're really, really going to enjoy it. It's going to air on our podcast channels, and you'll be able to get to our podcast channels through our website, inwheeltime.com. You just click on whatever podcast channel that you prefer, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict, and there's a couple of others as well. And I encourage you to be sure and check it out. After you listen to about 5 minutes of the first one, which is going to go up on our podcast channels on Monday, August the 24th. So it's a week from Monday. Click on it. Give yourself 30 minutes to listen to it, and you're going to go, wow, that was really good. It will draw you in. And the narrator is especially good. His name is Sonari Glinton. He's formerly with NPR, National Public Radio.
Okay.
And it's so well done. It's like listening to your next-door neighbor tell the story about the Ford Bronco.
From the inception to the current generation.
Yeah, and all of matter of fact, in episode 1, they talk about Lee Iacocca, the famous Lee Iacocca, the Ford Mustang guy, and it went on to save Chrysler Corporation and how he was involved in all. It is absolutely fascinating.
Well, that was back when he worked for Ford.
Correct. Originally worked for Ford, but he went on to save Chrysler.
And introduced the Mustang, was involved in the introduction of the Mustang.
Yep.
And people, I just learned this a couple of weeks ago. People need to realize that the Mustang and the Bronco were introduced about the same time, and the logos were both designed by the same person.
Yes, they were, as a matter of fact.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, and the naming of it. Yeah, because it was not originally called the Bronco. But I don't want to get into all of that. I don't want to spill the beans on that. By the way, did you steal my spot rundown? I think that you did.
Oh, I did. I gave it to Mars.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at any rate, I wanted to be sure and mention that, and we're going to talk about it throughout the show today. We were going to talk to John Gray, and John Gray is with Gulf Coast Auto Shield, and has been a good friend of the show since really the inception of the show. And he taught everybody, including myself, how to wash a vehicle properly. Without scratching the heck out of it. And
how to care for it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, back to the washing thing. There's actual science to it. Psh, I didn't do any of that. Back in the day, I'd get the suds, get some Dawn dishwashing detergent, and away you go.
And the broom out.
Oh, yeah, all that stuff. Well, I don't do that anymore, thanks to John.
Well, hopefully we'll get his sound potted up here in a second. We're not sure if it's you or Mars, but we're going to blame Mars for the moment.
Yeah, let's blame him. I don't want to be. I've been blamed for everything all my life, and rightly so. But let's not do that today yet. Okay?
Yet.
Yeah.
So, John,
can you hear us?
Yeah, he can hear us. We can't hear him.
Okay.
Okay, we're still working on that then.
Yeah. I don't quite.
Well, John was also kind enough to do the ceramic coating on the Rally 350 in time for Autorama. And boy, I'll tell you, if you've not had your vehicle properly ceramic coated, and you want to bring that shine back to it as well as a level of protection to the paint, it made that car look like it was just painted.
Well, first of all, let's start with the ceramic coating. It's not as if that it's some, hard thing. It's liquid. It's like a wax, for lack of a better term, but it's in a liquid form, and they put it on there. But after it goes through the whole paint correction routine, and with that comes all of the detailing. And, there was a lot of detailing that happened to your car and a lot of paint correction work. So it's like body work, so to speak. So when you have a crash and, as they say, it's all prior to the paint that makes the paint look good.
Correct.
And same thing with this.
And then to put the coating on top of it, which brings the shine and the luster, but it also brings a level of protection to it. Because to be honest with you, I haven't had to do a real hard, heavy wash on that since. I just kind of wash it lightly and wipe it down, and it still looks as good.
Well, it's been 3 years since he did that to the Corvette, my 2001 Corvette, and
that hides underneath the cover most of the time.
Yeah, which is really not all that great for it because it holds in moisture and other stuff.
It holds in mice and squirrels and chipmunks. Well, not chipmunks, but mice and squirrels.
Yeah, not underneath the cover, but in the engine compartment mainly, and that's what gnawed a hole through the vacuum line that controlled the air conditioning. And so another good friend of yours helped me with getting that repaired, and what a nightmare that was.
Well, luckily we knew somebody who knew what they were
doing.
You
did?
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy too. So at any rate, to continue on with the paint correction thing and John Gray, I was over there. I had a boo-boo on the headlight door on the Corvette on the right, because a branch of the tree that it sits under came down, hit it, and cracked it. And not just cracked it, but it actually pushed part of the plastic, because it is plastic, it's not fiberglass, pushed it down a little bit. So the surface was unmatched.
Uneven.
Yeah. And so I had to take the headlight door cover, out to my buddy out at Sweet Rides, who we had on last week, and he fixed it and repainted it. And then I took it over to John, and he put the ceramic, recoated it. And I'd never watched him actually coat it with the ceramic coating. It's liquid. Wipe it on there. Let it dry. Buff it off. It's on. It's done. Here you go.
I think you said just a few seconds ago, it's all about the prep work before you do that. That's just as important as doing the
well, and I got it back
coating.
from Mark Rancourt. Needless to say, it was absolutely perfect in every way as far as the paint was concerned. It was beautiful. Matter of fact, I stood there. He says, yeah, well, I'm going to buff that one more time. So it was perfect when I took it over there to Gulf Coast Auto Shield. And it was really sweet to watch. He has a gal that works for him that actually applied the coating. Got it on there. It got hazy. Buffed it off, done. Here you go. And put it on there, obviously matched perfectly. But I wanted to make sure that it had the right steps, that the rest of the car had it.
So it all matched when you put it back on.
And you can't tell that I ever took it off, which is a miracle in itself, because usually, the door would be sideways.
Cattywampers.
Oh, yeah. That's always my luck. And then, did I tell you about the turn signal issue that I had?
No, not again. Something else.
So I got all this work done. The car was all shined up and everything, and I was going to take it out on that weekend.
Because you got to test drive it before you go drive the pace car this weekend.
Dang it. I didn't really, do what I wanted to do on that Sunday and take I'm going to turn that off there, Mr. Mars. But I wanted to take all of that and, drive the car. Okay, so Monday I drove it to work. Okay? I get to an intersection with the turn signal.
It's going fast.
Yeah, one of the bulbs was out.
That's what going fast means. It's not pulling enough amperage to put enough heat into the bimetal spring, so it goes.
Yeah. Well, it was the left front turn signal.
Oh, that's the fun one to get to.
Yeah.
That's not just in the front bumper. It's way up behind the front bumper.
After you take down the access panel that has about 10 screws in it. 10.
Laying on the ground in 105-degree
Yeah.
temperature out in the sun.
And, of course, the bulb is stuck in the lens from underneath. So you got to, and I don't have a lift. I had it on a jack stand, so at least I could get up there and kind of see it. Take the thing out. Well, it doesn't have enough cord on it for me to get two hands in there. So then I had to raise
You gotta love engineers.
raise the headlight door, take the bezel off of the headlights to be able to squeeze an arm in there to hold one end of the socket, and then the other one I could get the bulb in there.
Somewhere James Bragg is laughing at us because there's probably an easier way to do that.
I'm sure there is. Well, of course, it would be, let's just go ahead and take the entire wheel well out of it, because that's what he did. So.
Well, it's those kind of things happen. It's like whenever you get to talking with John, we went over there and did a remote over at his place, and he kind of showed us some of that stuff, and I'd really like to do that again sometime where he's actually doing some of that work. It's real easy to sit there and say we're buffering, or he's got a buffer that he's using on it and in liquid, but it's a whole lot nicer and neater to see when he's actually doing it. He's going to give us a walk around the shop and stuff. But
So can we hear him yet? Do we know?
No, can't.
Okay.
So, looks like our interviews today have gone down the toilet because well, I don't know. It's all plugged in on this end, and I just I have no clue what I've done or what's happened. Well, I do know. I did move my audio console
Forward
from
from
here
there.
to over
Well, that's
here.
just so you wouldn't turn your back to people when you were messing with the audio.
Yeah. Well, look what we got.
Nothing.
Nothing. So, but
Well, but John's always got a great collection of cars over there. The Gulf Coast Auto Shield has a pretty good relationship.
Are you kidding me? A collection of cars. Have you been in there lately?
No, I haven't been in there.
Every time that I have been in there, he's got cars in there that's like this. It is just jam-packed in there.
But he does a lot of Teslas. So I think he's got some kind of a relationship with the Tesla community, because every time I've been in there, he's had 2 or 3 Teslas in there.
There was a
that they're
Tesla
doing
in
the
there.
thing
There was a
on.
Porsche in there. I think that there was a Lamborghini in there. A lot of high-end cars. And the business never stops. And he's always buried. But he manages to get the cars in and out of there.
Carefully, because it's like a conga dance outside as they're moving cars in and moving cars out and trying to keep the door closed so you don't let all the air conditioning out.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It is an air-conditioned shop, and lighting is perfect in there. Needless to say, it's quite a dance inside there. That all the time, and there's always something going on. Lots of moving parts, and I guess that's a testament to his ability to make everything work the way that it's supposed to. Yeah.
Well, and he's got a good crew, and I think that a lot of the guys in his crew have been with him for some time as well.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about a business, whatever the business is. When your employees stay with you for a period of time, you're not only treating them right, you pay them correctly, and they don't go wandering off looking for greener pastures someplace, which in the car business is quite common. For me, working for BG, I get to know all of these people, and then as they move around from shop to shop, I find them other places. Well, that happens in most businesses, but I think in the auto business, at any level of the auto business, that's actually quite common, because everybody's always chasing that extra dollar somewhere with visions of greener pastures, but it doesn't always pan out true. So if your boss is treating you correctly and you make a fair income, why not stay? And I think that's one of the things John does with his folks.
Well, I have to tell you that there was a new female that was in there, young. I guess it's all relative when you get to my age, but a female that was in there, and she was the one that was handling the coating on that headlight door. And so I had a chance to talk to her while she was doing it. And she came from a dealership, and she'd been there for several years and worked in the body shop. which is unusual to see a female in there. And she was working, I don't remember, was some Porsche or something, doing auto paint correction. And it was amazing. Very focused, but very professional, and she knew what she was doing. You know, you can kind of tell. And John, I don't think, has ever had anybody in there that doesn't know what is going on and how to do the job that he's got them doing. And I asked her, I said, so where did you come from? And she told me the dealership name. And, oh, yeah, I worked there for 3 or 4 years, and I got into the business this way and this way. And she worked her way up the ladder. And she was very, very good, very professional, and knew what she was doing. Here you go. Take my car and make it well. You know more about it than I do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that, you know, growing up in my era, that would have never happened.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anybody going to Richardson Chevrolet and handing them your car,
There were
and
no.
say, here, fix this, because the first thing you do is you would buff pinstripes in it as you put that buffer wheel on and ripped all the paint off at all the high edges.
I can't tell you. I will admit to you, now that you're watching, because the Richardson family don't know me from Adam, if there are any of them still alive. But, yes, I have no clue, and neither do they, how many hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars that I cost them when I...
Oh, they probably ran it through his warranty anyhow. It's just
Probably
a warranty paint job. Oh, Don buffed another one. Here, let's fix that under warranty.
Yeah, because, you know, back in the 60s and early 70s, there was always, on all the cars, a nice ridge right down the middle of the hood
You know why those ridges are there, right?
to strengthen the hood.
Strengthen the hood. It keeps it from wobbling in the wind.
Well, and especially those cheap white paint jobs that came from Chevrolet at the time. I mean, they were less than paper thin.
And paint back then is different than it is paint now. Now, paint back then was really maybe just a 2 or 3 process job. Today, it's like 5 or 6 processes to put the paint, because it's not only the electric plating that they do, what's called ELPO, E-L-P-O, and then there's a sealer put on after that, and then there's a color coat, and then there's a clear coat. Or multiple layers of color and multiple layers of clear. Back then, it was, you know, they dip the car and throw some paint on it, and it was done.
Well, challenging to say the least for this moron that was working in what was called back then new car make ready. Do they still have that?
Oh, yeah.
They
Everybody's got make ready. And through make ready goes, you know, not only the new cars, but also the used cars. And then, you know, those special customers in the service department that ask for a detail job, or the service department wants to do something extra for them, and they throw it through.
And let me just say this: we never made ready used cars. I don't know. I guess that there was some guy over in the used car lot, and he was the guy that vacuumed them and washed them, because we never saw any used cars. It was strictly new cars.
Well, new cars that come in off the railhead and off the truck into the dealership, there's certain things that have to be added to the car. You know, you're going to throw mats in, you're going to throw
we did all that.
hubcaps on, you're
Yeah,
going
we
to
did
do
all
some
that.
detail. You know, used to be they'd fill you up with gas. Now they kind of put a certain amount of gas. That was all part of make ready, and the manufacturer pays the dealership a fixed amount of money for that make ready. But even a lot of places, used cars, their used car operations go through the regular make ready department. Maybe not all of them, but, you know, back then it might have been a different world.
Right. Okay, so we're going to take a little break here, but before we go to the break, I wanted to remind you once again that we're going to be hosting a podcast, and it's called Bring Back Bronco, and it's going to be on our podcast channels, and we're going to put it up there on Monday, August 24th, so a week from this coming Monday, August the 24th. It's going to go up about 1 o'clock Central Time on all of the podcast channels. And if you're not familiar with our podcast channels, you can actually go to our inrealtime.com website and access. We've got a link so you can link all of the podcast channels through there. But this is a very special program. It's called Bring Back Bronco, the story of a truck and the story of a country. Ford Bronco, you know, one of the most beloved brands in American automotive history, but when the last Ford Bronco rolled off the assembly line in Wayne, Michigan on June 12, 1996, it was the end of the brand and the start of a lot of questions. So the 8-part serial is a 50-year odyssey of blood, sweat, and dirt. It takes you from the dizzying heights of the post-war boom to the most watched police chase in American television history and this year's rebirth of the Bronco. The host is Sonari Glinton. He is a great narrator. I've listened to the first episode, and I think that you're really going to enjoy it. So I invite you to be sure and tune in to one of our podcast channels on Monday, August the 24th at 1 o'clock Central. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict, just to name a few. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
As America gets back on the road, a lot of things have changed, but not the need for drivers to be safe. With that in mind, it's time to review our safe driving checklist. First, you're in your car.
Check.
You're sober.
Check.
You're wearing your seatbelt.
Check.
Your phone is put away.
Check.
Great. Make sure you follow the speed limit. And remember, law enforcement is enforcing traffic safety laws in our community to save lives. Paid for by NHTSA.
Hey, welcome back to the In Wheel Time program here on all of our podcast channels and also on InWheelTime.com.
Pay no attention to the long-haired guy in the green shirt. He's still working on Zoom.
Oh, my God. Well,
The man behind the curtain. Our own Wizard of Oz, Odds, O-D-D-Z, Mike Mars.
Wizard of Odds. I think that's rather fitting. And he's not paying any attention. So
No, he's trying to fix the audio feed from Zoom.
But at any rate,
Sending a picture to David Ainsley.
Yeah. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to help try anyway, as little as I know about this, to help things out because Mars was scheduled to do this hour's car review now. But in the meantime, I'm going to do my car review. And I had the 2020 Buick Encore. Here are the trim levels. It comes in 1SV. Where does General Motors come up with this stuff? 1SV, which is the base model. Mm-hmm. Then it goes to Preferred, the Sport Touring, and the Essence, which is the top of the line. And I had the Essence. It's a small SUV, or we'd like to call it a subcompact. It's tiny, but very popular, and it seats 5 passengers. Exterior changes from last model year, first introduced in 2013 with minor updates. There's the interior. Let's pause and let's go back to the exterior features. It's small with an attractive Buick grille, nicely sculpted sides, faux skid plates front and rear, which helps the sporty appearance, I think. It also has some very nice wheel options. That one there is the top of the line. What I liked about it, the overall appearance. Cute.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And they sell quite a few of them. It's a pretty popular vehicle, but it's also at a great price point.
Interior highlights. They include, first of all, it has the same infotainment system as other Buicks, and I have to say that it is excellent. Dash is nicely styled. Second row has flip-down armrest with cup holders. Cargo trunk room. It's small in the back. With the seat down, it allows for the kids' sports gear.
Mm-hmm. And I love the two-tone interior.
I do too. Well, obviously, that's the upscale interior there, but more and more manufacturers are going to this style with contrasting materials in there. Yeah, and it's really nice. Love the fabric texture. Buick absolutely nailed that. What could use improvement? Nothing really. It really is just a little dash of luxury
in that segment.
Yeah, it's not full luxury, but it's what they call near luxury. Mm-hmm. Okay, for the engine,
that's Buick's mantra.
Right. So for the engine, it has a tiny 1.4-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine that turns out only 138 horsepower, 148 pound-feet of torque through a 6-speed automatic transmission. But here's the real winner in this: city mileage per gallon. It's rated at 30 in the city, 32 in the highway for a combined of 31. I got 30.9 miles per gallon over 394.6 miles.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. What I liked about it, the mileage and its maneuverability. 9-speed automatic transmission. Did I say that? I think I earlier said 6-speed. I think it's a 9-speed. Anyway, I love the zippy maneuverability. It's great in parking lots. Here's the other good part about it. Base trim price is $28,500. As tested, $33,465. Now, the base model price is only $23,200. So the competitors include the Hyundai Kona for $20,300, the Jeep Renegade for $22,375, and the Mazda CX-3 for $26,000.
So it's right in the ballpark, and you get the benefits of Buick because with Buick you get a little higher level of warranty.
It's a little bit more upscale than the
Right.
Chevrolet, but it's not quite at the Cadillac level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's Buick's positioning within General Motors. You know, years ago there was Oldsmobile and Pontiac were in the mix, and with them gone, now it's Chevrolet is your entry, Buick is your mid, and Caddy's your top.
Okay, coming up, we've got the events calendar. That's just ahead here. I want to make sure that
He's not.
He's not today.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, way to go, Dave. We're going to blame it on you. So, a reminder, the In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. Podcasts available, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. Events calendar and more next on the In Wheel Time Car Show right after this quick break.
Do you know what teens just love? Not being told what you're supposed to love. That's not anyone's business but yours. It doesn't matter what you love, but if you love it, click it. That includes you too. Because in 2018, 42% of Texas teens who died in traffic crashes were not wearing their seatbelts. Make sure everyone is buckled up. Every rider, every ride. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation.
Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild-to-wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com.
Okay.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time program. Time now for the events calendar, and I am proud to say that Conrad's got it together over there, and he is going to give us the events calendar.
At least one of us has it together today. So tonight, Nifty 50s is on. Remember, Randy Shannon and the whole Nifty 50s crew have gone to every other weekend. Tonight, it's on up at Grogan's Mill. And that's 5 to 8. Also, Saturday night tonight at 6 p.m., the Northside Mustang Club is going to be meeting at Freddy's Steak Burgers in their monthly cruise in Magnolia. At 6 p.m. is the Kima Car Show and Meet, and that goes on pretty much every Saturday. Tomorrow, the Deputy Keith Barillas benefit is in New Caney, and that starts at 12 p.m. at noon. At 4 p.m., the All-American Muscle Car Meet at Kroger's on 99, which is east of 45. At 5 p.m. is the Burger and Fries car, truck, and bike show, also in New Caney. So a couple of things going on in New Caney this weekend. And then tomorrow night.
It's the hot center of the world.
The hot
New
center.
Caney, Texas, ladies and gentlemen.
You ever fly over it?
I'm sure.
Didn't notice when
No.
you did. And then Sunday night is Freddy's at 1960 in Eldridge. That's classic, Showplace Classics car meet, and they have a meet they have meets all around town. Wednesday night is going to be Showplace Classics at Freddy's Steak Burger in Katy, and then every Friday night is Freddy's Steak Burger, and that's at Kirkendall in 2920.
So apparently Freddy's Steak Burger is a car meetup place around town.
Very much so. And Kerry Kirkley, who runs Showplace Classics, has got a very, very good relationship with them. They help each other. And if you go to the meet, you also get a little ticket from Kerry for a discount inside Freddy's to eat.
Well,
so I think you get 10% off, which is
so if you're a Freddy's customer and you're looking for a car thing that's going on there, just ask them.
Well, I'm sure because I've been to the one at 1960 and the one at Kirkendall a couple of times, and just the fact that there's a bunch of cool cars there, a bunch of other people just pull in. they park, I think they generally go in and eat something in Freddy's and then come out and wander around the cars, hopefully not spilling their ketchup and mustard all over your car.
That's always a good thing. Thank you for not spilling the mustard off of your hot dog.
There's a place to go with that, and I won't.
Good. Calling all car, truck, and Jeep clubs. We love to feature your bunch in our Car Club Spotlight. Just shoot us an email, info@inwheeltime.com, and please include your contact information, and we'll get your bunch on the In Wheel Time show. Our show continues after a quick break, I think.
Don't you have a sound?
Yeah, do I?
There's no greater pain a parent can suffer than losing a child. And yet, heat stroke deaths in hot cars are on the rise. The temperature inside a vehicle can reach deadly levels in just a few minutes. Leaving windows cracked does not help. These preventable deaths can occur even when the outside temperature is as low as 57 degrees. Never leave your baby or child in a vehicle, even for a short period. And always check the back seat before you get out of the car. Where's baby? Look before you lock. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
NASCAR Short Track Racing returns this Saturday night. Advance Auto Parts presents a short track showdown at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 6. Commemorative Air Force flyover and racing get the green flag at 7. Get out of the house. We've got social distancing and sanitizer. Wear your mask. Get a seat. With dollar hot dogs and dollar beer, how can you go wrong? Get the kids off their cell phones and bring them to watch NASCAR home track racing at its best. Advance tickets are online at NASCARHouston.com this Saturday night at Houston Motorsports Park.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a paperwork nightmare here at the In Wheel Time show. You know, I was, and I told you this, I was feeling a little nervous about today's show for some reason. Well, guess what? Now I know why.
Well, you know, just listening to the commercial just before we came back on out at Houston Motorsports tonight, you're going to be the pace car driver driving the In Wheel Time 2001 Corvette.
Well, at least that is the plan. You know, I haven't talked to Gina since
Well, you could socially distance in the Corvette, especially now that the air conditioning system's working. Thank you, James Bragg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the air conditioning is working, and I'll have a place to sit. I went through one entire evening. I had no place to sit because one of the gals took the golf cart and never showed back up. So I was kind of
Didn't leave you a chair or anything?
No, nothing. Last week I took a chair and didn't need it because I had a golf cart. Well, 2 weeks ago. Well, of course, isn't that the way that it always works?
Well, it's going to be fun racing tonight. You know, if you're looking for something to do, get yourself out to Houston Motorsports Park, which is basically Lake Houston Parkway.
North Lake Houston Parkway. It's just the south end of Lake Houston.
And Beltway 8.
I mean, yeah.
It's just west of Beltway 8 and Lake Houston Parkway.
Yeah. And it's a great facility, very kid-friendly.
Dollar beers, dollar Cokes, dollar dogs.
Yeah. You can't.
So bring a couple of bucks and you can eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, and there's social
watch the
distancing
cars.
in the stands, so you don't have to worry about it. I mean, there's plenty of room to spread out.
Masks required.
Mask required, and she's got hand sanitizer out there. It's all up and up. And
So you're going to wear your Freddy Krueger's mask, just
You
the whole
know,
pullover thing on your head?
No, I think I'll pass on that. But
Gets a little sweaty in there inside one of those latex masks.
you know, I ran across this story the other day. 5 ways that a to-do list can make your time in the garage even more rewarding. And I've been saving this. This is a story from Haggerty that Kyle Smith wrote.
That's Mars.
I know. So we just turned that off. So, and so here it is. Budget your time effectively. Okay? You know, set yourself some time. 30 minutes maybe to get yourself, your act together. Is the garage set up to do whatever?
Priority list.
Yeah, exactly. Leaving the garage with a project finished is always better than walking away from a job undone. You remember where you left off, which is a huge problem because when I start a project, something always gets in the way. And the problem is that I get out there, do something.
Squirrel.
Well, it's not that.
Squirrel.
It's the time. But when I get back to it, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, oh, God.
Where was I?
Where did I
leave
put
off?
the screws to that access panel that I took off? Where's the access panel? It's all of that stuff. So make the project part of the time that you've got
Scheduled.
actually. Yeah. And if you can't finish it, put whatever else you have going on off for a little while and you can try to get that thing done. Take lots of pictures. Now we've got a cell phone.
Lots of pictures is very, very important.
Yes.
Because then you can see what it looked like before you started and what it looks like after you've done, and then you can also take the pictures of those extra parts you have left over and see if you can figure out where they go.
And by the way, speaking of that, you know, we tried to do a brake job on my daughter's Challenger, and I had ordered the brake parts from Advance Auto Parts based on the model car that she had.
And got the wrong ones.
And I got the wrong ones. They were the correct ones according to Advance, but they weren't. And when we got them, the pads that I had were that big. The pads that were needed were that big. So it was just a mess. And
those things happen, and that's why so many times the parts guys want as much information about the vehicle as they can get.
Right.
You know, because that determines, does it have the upgraded brake system on it? Is it the base brakes? You know, and all of the components that change based on which level of system that's on it. It's not just brakes.
And you know, really, and you've schooled us all on this, and that is the fact that your VIN number tells the dealer everything that they really need to know.
Most things.
Yeah, most things. Maybe not the paint code.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
Well,
but it tells them, like, for instance, the brakes would be in that.
Yeah, well, it'd give them, in the VIN, it's going to give them the manufacturer, the country of build, it's going to give them the body style, and then within that body style, it's going to give them the trim level of that body style. And that trim level, as that trim level moves up and down, the extra components on the vehicle change. And then after that, it's going to give them what's called a check digit. And then it's going to give them the engine. Then it's going to give them the year model of the vehicle. And then it gives them the assembly plant, and then the 6-digit sequential of the build of it. And a lot of times it's within that 6-digit sequential of the build that the parts guy needs to know, is this an early build? Is it a late build? Because somewhere in the middle, the manufacturer changed something about the car.
Right.
And in some instances, it may be that they were carryover parts from the previous year model, or it may be pull forward parts from next year's model. So all of that has a pretty big bearing on it. So if you're going to get parts, best to bring the 17-digit VIN with you.
Well, speaking of that, and let's go back to the light bulb thing that I was telling you about that I went through on the Corvette, because I think it was a 4716 bulb, which is an amber bulb, okay? And
a little two-pronger thing.
And it says in the Corvette parts manual, you know, or the owner's manual in the back, gives you the part number. And I pulled what was left of the bulb out of the socket, and right on there it said 4716. Right. So I take it over to O'Reilly.
They don't have a 47.
They don't have we've got a 3716, and it is an exact replacement. Bring it home, plug it in, guess what? Doesn't work. But I take it back, go over to Advance Auto Parts. I need a 4716. Oh, sure, we got one right here. Here you go. Bring it home. Boom, it works.
Well, that's probably because O'Reilly was out of 47s and he wanted to sell you something. So
they had a slot for 47s, but they were gone. You know, if there is a way to ruin Don Armstrong's day, that'll do it. So, lesson learned, if it's a 4716, get the 4716.
Well, yeah, that's why the numbers are on there.
And don't buy Craftsman. Just saying.
Oh, gosh. Well, the other thing is the complexity of going to an Advanced or an O'Reilly's or one of the big parts houses. It also gets complicated going to the dealership. Living in the dealership world for so long, you know, I know what parts I need, and you would think that the dealer parts department would be a little bit more attuned to the brand that they sell. Nah. They hand you the wrong parts all the time. And it's not intentional. It's just either I didn't give them enough information or they didn't ask me the right questions, so we got the right part.
So I was watching Graveyard Cars, which I normally don't do because it's a little bit
showy.
Yeah. And Mark Warman is probably one of the most schooled guys when it comes.
He's a savant when it comes to Mopar products, and being a savant is kind of what makes him a little odd.
And so the story was, last night on the episode that I watched, It was about a model that it was a Dart Swinger, I think it was. And it was only made for 2 years, 71 and 72.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I did not know it either. And it came with these certain engine options and certain transmissions and that sort of thing. Typical car,
And
especially
that's in his head. He doesn't have to go look for that.
Right.
He knows all of those things.
And so it was truly amazing because, as he said, yes, this car came with the big V8, the Hemi. It had a 4-speed, both of which were options, and it was a convertible. The rest of the story was really cool, too, because it was a couple's car, and they lost track of it. They had to sell it. They found it, and he was getting ready to restore it. But he also said because they only made that car for 2 years, even though it was only 2 years, that there was a change in parts mid-year of 72. So the brakes, for instance, I don't remember exactly which one it was, but the brakes, for instance, from the 71 model through half of the 72 model were this. The rest of the brakes from 72 till the end of production of that particular model were different.
And that's where that 6-digit sequential build number has a bearing on it, is because based on that 6 digits, they can tell the time of production of the vehicle and which is it an early production or a late production to know what parts are necessary on it. And then, because for Warman and what he does, he knows if this car was built in February of 72, it should not have any date-coded parts on it that are March of 72. It should all be date-coded stuff prior to February of 72.
The other thing is the to-do list. And,
And he has a pretty strong to-do list on everything.
Yeah.
And when you watch a lot of these shows, they all have a to-do list, whether it's on a piece of paper, it's on a big board.
Or with the hot rod guys, the roadkill guys, they just write it on the underside. They write it on the outside of the hood.
Yeah, or on the inside of the hood. Yeah,
just check it off or cross it off with marks a lot in there. But it was always a to-do list. We need this. We need to do this. We need these parts, et cetera, et cetera. And it's such a huge thing. And I don't believe that I ever had a checklist. I'm going to redo the brakes. And so I went around the car and did the 4 brakes on the old Corvette. Or I'm going to put the high-rise manifold on. That was the task.
Though there was a lot of components within that task, because not only do you put the manifold on, you got to make sure you get the gaskets sealed correctly.
Yes.
You got to get the distributor set. You got to make sure when you pull the distributor out, you understand where the rotor is pointing and mark that somehow. So when you put it back in, it's in the right spot. And then
I always lucked out somehow in the distributor thing.
Oh, I've messed that up more times than I can think. You pull it out and you're like, oh, I forgot to mark where it was.
Exactly.
So you rotate it around until number 1's at top dead center, and then you got a 50-50 chance of hitting it right. if you don't have the valve covers off. If you got the valve covers off, you can hit it right.
Something else, helping you selling a project car will be significantly easier when you can confidently tell a prospective buyer, I have done X, Y, and Z, but here is a list of the things I know that need to be done to get it to the point that you tell me that you want to take it. With that information, the buyer knows exactly what they're getting into. A project might look like a mountain and actually be a molehill.
Well, when you look at a lot of these high-level cars that we saw in the Magnificent Seven at Autorama, those people have a book of their build. Here's what the vehicle looked like, and here it is each step across the way. The lady with the green Plymouth Superbird.
Yes, I do. Vividly.
Her book had to be 8 inches tall with all these pictures and each step of the sequence as they restored that car. And then I think it was also the guy with the gray Vicky.
Yes.
His book was as big, but it also went through like 3 generations of the car's build. And that was actually, specific car was on Count's Customs.
Oh, it was.
When Danny and he brought the crew to Autorama in Detroit, that car that we saw here, that Vicky we saw here, was in the running for the Riddler in Detroit. And because I remembered the car and I remembered the owner because we interviewed the owner. So, you know, those books are quite valuable to some of those custom builds like that because, you know, a lot of custom builds, there's a lot of custom wiring in it. And if there's photographs of it and data so that whoever the next owner is can go in and have that kind of information.
And, you know, really, it's actually kind of fun to do if you're an organizer, or even if you're not an organizer.
I'm not organized.
If you have an example of how to organize it, either in a book, underneath the hood, whatever the case may be, you need to do these tasks and you need these parts. It's a whole lot easier if you just keep it in a spiral-bound notebook.
Right.
It's pretty easy to keep up with it, and you have however minimal the record is that you have,
But
at
there's
least
still
you
a
have
record.
a record of
Well,
it.
and as you're building something, some things have to be done in sequence. And the notebook keeps you in sequence. You know,
Yes, it does.
You can't put the distributor in before you put the intake manifold on.
I always wanted to do a kit car, one that's all complete in the box. Here you go, put it together. You know.
Well, we could do that.
No,
You had a kit car. It was a Corvair.
pretty much, and I've got one out there called a Corvette. Okay.
Well, we could do what the roadkill guys do your Corvette. Just get the Sawzall out.
Oh, absolutely.
Chop it all the way down to a dune buggy.
And a couple of coat hangers and a pair of pliers, and I'm good to go.
Those guys are completely out of their
Hey, I've
mind.
got to tell you about this really cool podcast that we're going to kind of host, if you will. It is a podcast called Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story, with host Sonari Glinton. And it is a story that is about 8 episodes long, and we're going to have the first episode coming up on our podcast channels, and I'll give you those in just a second. It's going to be debuting on Monday, August the 24th. And we'll tell you again next weekend about it. But at any rate, it's Monday, August the 24th. The first episode is going to air at 1 p.m. Central Time if you want to do it live on our podcast channels. And, of course, after the initial airing, you'll be able to download it as well. But, you know, got to be first on the block. But I have to tell you, this is such a well-done podcast. Once I started listening to it, I kept wanting to listen to more.
And the
you know,
timing couldn't be more perfect.
The theater of the mind. This is where old-time radio comes into play. You know, before there was television, people sat around the radio and listened to the radio and had their own mindset as to exactly what they thought.
Well, you did.
All of
I
it.
always had television. Maybe you had.
No,
But that's brought us full circle to the podcast world.
Yeah, exactly. And this one is one that you'll definitely want to listen to either in your car, on your smartphone, or when you get home online. It really is. It's called Bring Back Bronco. And again, you'll be able to get it on all of our podcast channels. And let me tell you, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, and you can get access to all of that through InWheelTime.com. So I encourage you, to actually get into this season 1 episode. O.J. Simpson chase happened more than 25 years ago. Still a lot of questions about its impact on the Bronco. For the first time ever, this podcast takes you inside Ford to discover what's happening that night, inside a Ford factory, inside the Ford call center, and inside the chairman's office. Lee Iacocca, guy from the movie Ford versus Ferrari, well, he shows up in this podcast. He wasn't just a Mustang guy. He had a hand in the Bronco, too. And if you're a Ford fan, especially if you're a Ford fan, and especially if you're a Mustang fan, you've got to check this podcast
Because
out.
there's a relationship.
Absolutely.
There truly is a relationship that a lot of people don't understand between Mustang and Bronco.
Yeah. So it's going to debut Monday, August 24th, 1 p.m. Central. It's a podcast, and it's called Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story. New podcast, Rise, Fall, Rebirth of the Bronco, the whole 9 yards. We encourage you to tune in for that. Okay, we're going to have more of the In Wheel Time Car Show coming up right after a quick break.
Dude, you may want to slow down. There's a cop car up there. Hey, man, there's another cop. I'd think about putting your seatbelt on if I were you. And if you could sober up in less than 5 seconds, that'd be cool too.
As America gets back on the road, a lot of things have changed, but not the need for drivers to be safe. Cops are enforcing
Hey.
traffic safety laws in our
Sorry.
community to save lives. Paid for by NHTSA.
You know, it's been one of those kind of off days for me. Needless to
It's
say.
been an off day for Mars, too.
Yeah. You know, Mars hasn't really said 2 words on the air, but that's
Well, I think he's still working on trying to get Zoom and all of our guests in.
I'm saying a lot of things under my breath that you don't want to hear.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Wow, that's scary.
You know,
I hope I
it's
don't-
all the uppercase marks on the keyboard above the letters
Oh yeah.
stacked together.
Yeah, I got it. Well, at any rate. All right, time now for Conrad's Car Clinic here on the In Wheel Time Car Show. And what you got cooking
Well,
today?
last week you asked for some information about gasoline. That
Oh,
is.
gasoline. That's it.
Gasoline,
Yeah.
You know, most gasoline petroleum refineries produce what is actually an unfinished gasoline or the gasoline blend stocks. So a refinery makes gasoline up to a level and then delivers that gasoline to a blending terminal. Now, at the blending terminal is where the trucks come to haul it out. So from the refinery to the blending terminal, generally that is done through pipelines, but not always. So the refinery delivers the blending stock to the terminal, and then the terminal is where they add the additive package that makes it Chevron, the additive package that makes it Texaco or Shell or whatever brand it is, because each of those brands has a little bit of a different additive package that they build in. But it's also at the blending terminal where they add the ethanol. So in Houston, it's required, it has to have, in most places around the country, but not all, it's required that all fuels have a minimum of 10% ethanol added to them. So it's at those blending stations where they add the ethanol. But one of the things you really have to understand is ethanol by itself is 113 octane, but it's also mildly corrosive. So they don't ship the ethanol itself through the pipelines because it would destroy the inside of the pipelines. So most of ethanol is truck
That's
delivered.
exactly what I don't want in my car.
Well, there's a reason for that. But so most ethanol is brought in by truck and blended at these blending stations.
All right.
Or the blending terminals. So now they make the correct blend of additives and ethanol to make whatever brand fuel they want to make. And that brand of fuel, some brands meet this top tier requirement, but not all brands meet top tier. To get to what's considered top tier fuel, it has to have a certain level of each of these components of additives that are in there that do different things. Most of that has to do with deposit cleaning agents, or DCAs, that are in the fuel to help clean the carbon deposits inside. But not all fuels meet that standard. So that's why when you go to the back of your owner's manual and it says use top-tier fuel only, those brands that are listed do meet that top-tier fuel. But the problem happens with the ethanol that's put in the fuel. So all of these fuels have a minimum of 10% ethanol. Now, I'm not talking about E85. I'm just talking about standard gas that's there. So like I said a couple of seconds ago, ethanol by itself, E100, is 113 octane. Pretty high octane fuel. Yep. Now, the gasoline that you buy at the pump, let's just say you're buying regular grade gas, is 87 octane. So how do they get to 87 octane? They start with 84 octane fuel and add that 10% ethanol to it, and it creates 87 octane.
Yep.
So that's how they get to that 87 octane, is they start with a sub-octane fuel and boost it with the ethanol. So the problem happens when you get small amounts of water into your fuel system. You know, it only takes 3 tablespoons of water to phase separate, and I'll explain what phase separation is, a gallon of gasoline. So a cup of water will phase separate 12 gallons of gasoline. Now, what phase separation is, in the fuel itself, the gasoline ethanol mixture is fine and it stays mixed together until you add water. And as soon as you start adding water to it, the ethanol and water join together and settle to the bottom of the tank. And what you have above that is this subgrade fuel. So you have this 84 octane. So the next problem is, where does the pickup tube for your fuel tank happen? It's at the bottom of the fuel tank. Depending on how much reserve is built into the tank as to whether or not it's going to suck up some of that bad fuel, or the ethanol water combination that really won't burn inside the engine. So there's things you have to do to make sure that you're controlling the amount of water that's getting into your fuel system. And some of that water gets in there just through humidity. As you open and close the gas tank, you introduce humidity, you get condensation in there. In a lot of instances, when you pull a fuel tank down, there's always a little bit of water in there, which means you're always susceptible to phase separation. The phase separation is where the drivability problems come, but it's also where the corrosion comes from. One of the most common failures of a fuel pump today is corrosion. So when the technician pulls it out of the tank, it's all rusty. Well, how did it get rusty when all I'm putting in is gasoline? It's the corrosiveness of the ethanol and the water combination that creates that. So there's some very, very good water remover products that you can put inside the gas tank that's going to entrain the water, keep it in mixture inside the gasoline, so as you run it, it pulls it out. So be sure you're using quality fuel. I would highly recommend you use a water removing product, a fuel dryer occasionally, just to get that little bit of water that's out of the tank. And you know, I'm a big believer in top tier fuel. There's no reason to use an octane rating above what your vehicle's requiring. So most vehicles are at the 87, but as we get into all of these GDI engines, they're requiring a high test fuel. So
you know, I was going to do some headlines, but I guess I'm not.
Did I go that long?
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, you got 3 minutes to do headlines. Go for it.
No, I don't. But because I got to play this first.
NASCAR Short Track Racing returns this Saturday night. Advance Auto Parts presents a short track showdown at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 6. Commemorative Air Force flyover and racing get the green flag at 7. Get out of the house. We've got social distancing and sanitizer. Wear your mask. Get a seat. With dollar hot dogs and dollar beer, how can you go wrong? Get the kids off their cell phones and bring them to watch NASCAR home track racing at its best. Advance tickets are online at NASCARHouston.com this Saturday night at Houston Motorsports Park.
Social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #AloneTogether. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Okay, thanks for joining us on today's In Wheel Time Car Show. Time now for some of the stories making automotive news headlines this week. Transportation Department's Office of Inspector General said on Tuesday it would audit oversight of U.S. vehicle safety standards, noting that more than 36,000 Americans were killed in traffic accidents in 2019. The Inspector General's office said it was launching a review of NHTSA's efforts to set and enforce federal motor vehicle safety standards. In March, NHTSA proposed sweeping changes to the U.S. safety requirements to speed the deployment of self-driving vehicles, God help us, without human controls. It proposed rewriting 11 vehicle safety standards that require traditional manual controls by revising the requirements and test procedures to account for the removal of manually operated driving controls.
No steering wheel.
Are you
no
kidding
gas pedal.
me? I'll tell you what.
How?
You take the first test ride, I'll stand back and watch and take pictures. All right. And the saga of Hertz Rental. Hertz Global Holdings seeking a debtor-in-possession financing more than 2 months after filing for Chapter 11 protection, reflecting the reality that it still faces trouble ahead if travel doesn't bounce back. The bankrupt rental car giant said in a regulatory filing on Monday, it is looking for new sources of cash with the travel business in a deep slump and proceeds from the sale of its cars going to pay off creditors. 186,000 cars are now going into the used car market. So
and it needs it because the used car market and the new car
has been
inventory
decimated.
Is empty right now.
It truly is. And so there's all of that. We're going to have to sit back and wait and see how all of that plays out. Well, that's it for this hour of the In Wheel Time Car Show. We've got another segment coming up.
Oh, my gosh, can we?
Do we dare? That's the real question. Do we dare? From Studio A in Texas, USA, it's hour number 2 of the All Things Automotive Car Talk Show, In Wheel Time. Just ahead, the review of the Cadillac XT. It's a Cadillac. Mars is going to do it whether he likes it or has time to do it or not, because I don't have anything else I can pad the time with. So we got that coming up. We're also going to take you into the Mystery Garage later this hour. And actually, this entire program has been kind of a mystery, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, since we're not Zooming today because of technical difficulties.
Yeah, and we
didn't change anything, and all of a sudden Zoom, we see the video, they hear us, but we can't hear them. So we're going to see if Angelica Brothers knows sign language and she can sign to us while she's doing it. Go ahead, give us some sign language. No, not that one.
There is that one.
Everybody understands that one.
There is that. And we're going to tell you a little bit more about the upcoming Bring Back Bronco, the Untold Story podcast. So we've got that coming up as well. We were going to have Fast Jack Beckman on to talk about hot rod history, a quarter mile at a time, a new video series. And unfortunately, with the Zoom issue, we're not going to be able to talk to him. But I do want you to check out Dodge Garage, where you can find Jack Beckman's hot rod history. There's 8 episodes of it. I watched one, and it is very, very good.
Beckman's a hoot, too.
Yeah, well, he is. But this particular thing is very interesting. It's kind of a long but different than the Bring Back Bronco podcast. This is a video series with Jack sitting in front of the camera. I did not realize how well-versed he was. This guy, when he decides that he doesn't want to drive funny cars anymore, needs to be on television. Either in the booth or somewhere.
Well, he's done some sit-ins in the booth on some of the shows, and generally, and I know he wouldn't want to admit to this, if he goes out early in eliminations, I've heard him in the booth before talking.
He's very good.
He's smooth.
Well, and the nice thing about it is that he knows the inside and out of drag racing and drag cars, and especially at the top level, top fuel. So there is that. We were talking about all sorts of different things in the first hour of the show, and we're going to continue that theme, as a matter of fact. So, cars that have appeared on screen. The top 3 car models featured on screen. And
so do we guess at who they are? Have all of our Facebook folks give us a few guesses on what cars.
Well, we're going to go through this so fast that you don't
do it quickly.
Yeah, do it real fast. So, what would you think now? Here's the question: the top 3 car models featured on screen. What do you think?
Mustang's got to be one of them.
It's in there, but it's not the most. Well,
really?
No, it's the top 3.
Okay. I was going to say Mustang would have to be one of them. What else? I would say.
What would you think number 3 would be?
I'm going to say some kind of Ferrari, but I don't know.
No, you're thinking like I did because we're car guys. But the number 3 car that has had 3,401 appearances.
A Renault Dauphine.
Nope. A Mercedes-Benz S-Class.
Okay. Well, yeah. Because
while it hasn't had many starring roles, it has managed to rack up an impressive amount of appearances in films and TV shows over the years, including Fast and Furious 6 and Kill Bill Volume 1. Number 2, you hit it, is the Ford Mustang. It's number 2. It's not number 1. And I would have thought that the Mustang would have been number 1.
Yeah, I would have as well, because when
3,000.
How many different times Mustangs has been the star of the show, whether it was Bullitt, whether it was there was a James Bond movie where a 73 Mustang,
3,504 appearances. One of its first big screen outings was in the James Bond movie Goldfinger. Right. But the Mustang is best remembered for the infamous chase through the streets of San Francisco in the Bullet.
And you can actually go, and there is a tour of the streets of San Francisco you can take in San Francisco, and they actually take you out in. They made a Bullet a couple of years ago, the green Bullet Ford did, and they take you out in one of those, not at those speeds, but through all of those roads. But I don't think they bring you down that one road that they repeated the film of like 6 times as the Charger lost its hubcap 3 times. But
by the way, speaking of the number one car, the number one model featured on screen is
Volkswagen Beetle.
The Ford Crown Victoria.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, you would think so?
Because all the police cars.
Well, the first one that comes to my mind is, was it the Blues Brothers?
No, Blues Brothers was a Chrysler.
It was Chryslers? All those cop cars were Chryslers?
Oh, yeah. Well, because they had a relationship with Chrysler. And they talked about Oldsmobile when they were going through the mall. The new Oldsmobiles are in.
Out of the 61,683 Ford appearances, 6,572 of them were the Crown Vic, which is commonly used as a police car, and taxis in films and TV series. The most famous Crown Vic is probably the version driven by the Men in Black. Okay, let's move on to the top 3 car brands featured on screen.
Well, it's got to be Ford right off the bat if you had Mustang and Crown Vic.
Don't be so dang fast.
I'm sorry.
Let's start with number 3. Let's start with number 3. What would you think the car brand now? The number 3 car brand.
Chevy.
Correct. 34,178 appearances in movies and TV shows. The Chevy is an iconic American brand, and they've seen their vehicles used in movies such as Fast and Furious, American Graffiti, and Days of Thunder, and even appeared as the Batmobile in Tim Burton's Batman movies.
Okay.
I did not know that.
Me either.
Okay. Number 2. The number 2.
Mercedes.
Did you peek?
Nope.
Yeah, the number 2 car, Mercedes-Benz, 34,675 film and TV show appearances, including the Red Baron 600 limousine, which is used by Poison Ivy in Batman and Robin.
Okay. I've never been the modern Batman fan, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think I have ever watched any of the modern Batmans from beginning to end.
Oh, really?
Never been a fan of any of them.
The number 1 car brand featured on screen?
Got to be Ford when you talk about Mustang.
Dominates the list of the most common movie car brands with an incredible 61,000 appearances. Let's not forget, the Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, yeah.
It's not surprising the American manufacturer took top spot with iconic vehicles such as the 1966 Thunderbird from Thelma and Louise and Grease Lightning itself from Grease, which was a 1948 Ford Deluxe convertible.
Or Cujo. Remember Cujo? The mad dog? The mad St. Bernard Cujo? And she's in there trying to start the Pinto and it won't start and the dog jumps up on the hood. There was a Ford in the movies.
That was back in a day, ladies and gentlemen, that I think that Conrad was doing something other than Starbucks Triple Energy. Just saying. That'd be my guess. I don't know.
Man, but I can't remember.
Ding! That's it.
When I was young, my parents asked me, what'd you do with all your money? I said, I don't know. It went up in smoke. And I'm sure George is out there laughing.
Oh, Lord. Anyway. I did want to...
Oh, well, actually, Dave Vera said, how come Jeep's not on the list? Because I'd have thought Jeep would have had a pretty good, and I'll agree with him, that Jeep would have had a pretty good standing on being seen in lots of things.
So
if you
when
consider all of the war movies through the years.
Well,
and how
there's
many
that.
Jeeps were in there.
Yes, and let's not forget MASH. And let's not forget something called Rat Patrol.
Oh, I loved Rat Patrol.
We all loved Rat Patrol. Well, yeah, Vic Morrow was in Rat Patrol. That was a television series. Was that in the 60s?
Yeah.
Was the 60s?
Because it was still black and white.
Yeah.
And they were driving through the desert with the 50 caliber mounted to the back, and the guy standing up shooting the 50 caliber as the guy's jumping through the dunes. I was like, that's just insane.
That is. Well, he had to have his. shoes glued to the back or something.
But yeah, good point is, how come Jeep didn't rate? And you just named the top 3. It may have been rated somewhere else in there, but Jeep's actually been quite popular.
The first hour of our show today, of our 2-hour show, we were going to have John Gray on. Well, that turned into nothing because we've got a Zoom problem today. But at any rate, one of the things that we obviously talk about when it comes to John Gray and the do's and don'ts for cleaning engine compartments. This is a story that I grabbed from Haggerty.
And Haggerty's a great resource because they have lots of good articles online, or as you get the magazine as well, in the Drivers Club magazine.
So I'm just going to do this. Can I do this?
Yes, please.
Because I know that John, when he really kind of detailed the exterior, did the exterior of your, are you ready for the car review coming up? I hope so. The exterior of the car, he also did a little work underneath the hood.
In the engine compartment.
In the engine compartment.
And you got to be careful and do that right because you can mess one up.
Now, my mother's Buick Skylark, I found a way to do it at the 25-cent car wash.
Oh, gosh.
Which is dangerous these days. Of course, there was no computer in the 69 Skylark, right? So I'd always take me a big sheet of aluminum foil. I'd put it over the distributor, encase the distributor in aluminum foil, take the air cleaner off, and cover the carburetor. And that was pretty much it. I was kind of, I only lightly touched the alternator and things that were moving.
Yeah, because putting an aluminum shield around the alternator could start a fire if the aluminum touches the wrong thing in the back of the alternator.
Well, I was dumb, but not quite there. But at any rate, and I took it to the quarter car wash frequently. You could eat off of that engine. It was magnificent. And I wish I could do that today.
You're a special guy, Don.
I know. Well, it's the weird things that kind of get me going.
But, if you leave Houston and drive to San Antonio, you can eat off of that engine, and I've done it. You wrap the chicken inside of aluminum foil, and you put all of the seasoning in.
Put it right on top of the manifold.
And you put it right down there near the exhaust manifold and drive. And then when you get to Schulenburg, you have to change sides. You either have to put it to the other side or rotate the chicken around. Otherwise, one side of the chicken's cooked and not the other. Tasted pretty good.
But what about those burn marks that you really like that you get from the grill?
There weren't any burn marks in it. The problem was when I pulled into a Cavender Oldsmobile and they could smell the rosemary and lemon of the chicken. And Don Hartman goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I saw a recipe online and I tried it." And he just laughed.
Well, it works. But at any rate, if you really want to find out who's really detailed-oriented at a car show, don't look at the hood, look under the hood. Spotless engine bay is tough to achieve and even harder to maintain. It's worth it, though, because a clean engine compartment is not only attractive, but also conducive to spotting any leaks or issues when they start, rather than leaving them to be camouflaged by grime. If your engine is dingy, an oily mess, whatever the case, you want to bring it back to a respectable condition. Here are a few tips. Ready? Take a before picture. If the engine's running smoothly, kind of hesitant to take anything apart to clean it, I'd recommend you think the same way. The old adage of "it ain't broke, don't fix it" has treated this rider well. However, to get a deep clean, you must dive deep before you start. Grab your camera, snap a picture. Even if you have a great memory, forget that. A wealth of reference materials, a photo still proves invaluable.
Yes.
Go easy. If a shelf on every auto parts store, you'll be tempted to grab that aerosol can of foaming degreaser. Gunk.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely the worst that you could. It leaves a horrible film on there. I don't care how much.
And that film means the next time you open the hood, all the dust sticks to it. It's even that much harder to clean.
It's just. Aerosol engine cleaner works great for engines that are very heavily soiled, but most of the time the stuff is overkill. It's also deceptively involved. If you don't rinse it all off due to residue, it'll cause corrosion. Instead, spend a little extra time by using a few clean rags, spraying your detailer of choice on the rag, and simply wiping away the dirt. The writer says, typically start with a quick detailer, and if the grime is stubborn, progress to more aggressive chemicals like brake or carburetor cleaner. And let me tell you something.
Brake cleaner cleans dry.
Brake cleaner, it is a miracle. And especially the stuff that will actually if you put a match in front of it, will light a fire. That's the best kind because it evaporates.
It evaporates, but one of the things you have to be careful about is how much you put on. So spray it on the rag and wipe. Don't just spray it on the engine because some of those cleaners can clean paint. So you can kind of strip the paint
actually,
off.
the boys over there at Roadkill, they actually use it to start engines.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, because it's so volatile.
Really?
Brake cleaner, throttle body cleaner, all of those things.
If you need to wash off the grime and grit, resist the urge to reach for the pressure washer.
Please resist the urge.
Both a home pressure washer and a wand at the local DIY car wash will inject water at a dangerously high pressure.
To places it doesn't belong.
Yeah, exactly, and especially in today's world,
Technology,
you don't want to do that. So at any rate, just be careful. Pick your poison when it comes to the cleaner. You know, the underneath the Corvette hood, it was getting kind of grimy in there. That cover, that engine cover that's on there, pops right off. All I did was I just took some cleaner, cleaned it up, took the vacuum cleaner in there, loosened up some dirt, sucked the dirt off of it, wiped it down with a rag. Looks brand new. Yeah, the hoses, everything. It really does look good. Okay. God, you know, it's been one of those kind of days, and I kind of had the...
And technology has failed us. And we have people waiting in the Zoom room, waiting to talk to us, and we can talk to them. We just won't be able to hear them talk back. But I'll tell you, I've looked at the Zoom room of Jack Beckman. Interesting Zoom room, and he's got all of these NHRA trophies behind him.
We are going to have him back on.
Yes, we are. Have to.
Well,
his show is awesome, and we need to give him a chance to talk about that.
So in the meantime and in between time, I do want to tell you about a podcast that we are going to be hosting, and we're going to post it first on Monday, August the 24th, and then they'll obviously be available on your podcast channel, whichever you prefer after that. As long as it says In Wheel Time, go to the podcast channels, and those podcast channels, I'll tell you about that in a second. But this podcast is called Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story. It's a new podcast series, and this is going to be episode 1. The host is a guy by the name of Sonari Glinton. You may know him from National Public Radio. He's a great narrator, and he brings you into the story from the very beginning with the history of the Bronco, Lee Iacocca, Ford Motor Company, and the actual
Henry Ford too, and some of the
how it all
there.
started back in 1962, even though it didn't come out till 66. It truly is a great podcast, and I do endorse it because I actually listened to the thing. We had a sneak preview, so I could be able to tell you about it. Actually, one of the episodes it goes. Inside Ford's most secretive building, Studio S, Creative Laboratory gave birth to the Thunderbird, the Mustang, and even the original Bronco. Inside, designers struggled to turn the Bronco mythology into reality, and all of this is all painted for you in this podcast, an audio podcast. It's great if you're on your way to work, if you're at home, on your smartphone, doesn't make any difference. If you're into podcasts, and I've never really been into podcasts, but I will tell you, this is one podcast to see. It's going to be out on the 24th, which is a week from Monday, and we encourage you to be sure and tune in. And those podcast channels are Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. We got more of the In Wheel Time show right after this.
Are you one of those people who thinks it's okay to drive stoned? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You end up driving below the speed limit? It's no big deal, right? Wrong. The truth is, your reaction times slow way down when you're high. You not only put yourself in danger, but everyone around you. Talk about a buzzkill. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using marijuana in any form, do not get behind the wheel. If you feel different, you drive different. Drive high, get a DUI. Paid for by NHTSA.
NASCAR Short Track Racing returns this Saturday night. Advance Auto Parts presents a short track showdown at Houston Motorsports Park. Gates open at 6. Commemorative Air Force flyover and racing get the green flag at 7. Get out of the house. We've got social distancing and sanitizer. Wear your mask. Get a seat. With dollar hot dogs and dollar beer, how can you go wrong? Get the kids off their cell phones and bring them to watch NASCAR home track racing at its best. Advance tickets are online at NASCARHouston.com this Saturday night at Houston Motorsports Park.
Hey, welcome back to the In Wheel Time Car Show here on this hot Saturday out of Houston, Texas. It's hot, man.
I'm
supposed
so
to get
glad
to 100 degrees today.
I'm sure glad you turned the air conditioning on last night as opposed to last week where you turned it on just before the show started, and it was sticky in here.
You know,
so
I didn't
you're
have
the best.
I didn't have a problem at all last week.
Well, you like being sticky.
We won't even go there. But guess what? You know, I will tell you this, that I am really glad that Mars has given up on the Zoom. And now
he can join the show.
He's going to join the show for the first time, and we welcome him to the show. Mr. Mars has a review of the Cadillac, some sort of Cadillac. I thought it was an XT6, but I may be wrong because I've been wrong all day.
No, not near as wrong as where I've been sitting over here. But I will say, I'm really glad now to be moving into a Cadillac instead of where I've been with.
In the doghouse?
Yes. So, yes, we are talking about a 2020 Cadillac XT6. We're talking about at the premium luxury with the front-wheel drive. And it actually comes in 2 different trim levels. You can get a sport or you can get the premium that we are driving with. And to give you an idea of the size of this CUV SUV, it is a midsize, considered a midsize. But it's basically
it's a big midsize
platform of a GMC Acadia.
Right.
So it's on that larger end of the midsize. But you got to fit it into the brand lineup somewhere. It's considered a 7 passengers, and it also, if you're familiar with the Cadillac line, it kind of slots between the XT5 and the Escalade. So that's between the 5-passenger vehicle and the 8-passenger vehicle. So you got small, big kind of thing. So if you're looking at the outside of it, you're going to see that
small, big kind of thing.
Well, if this is a Goldilocks thing, this would be Mama Bear.
Yeah, okay. yeah. You know, so it's got a really big shield-shaped grill, which I kind of like, as opposed to some of the new road scraper grills that are sitting out there on some of the vehicles. It's got the horizontal headlights on it that are LED headlights. You got the daytime running lights that are LED. And one thing I really liked about on the outside of it, it had the optional rear camera washer. Now, I haven't had to use that very often, but the once or twice that I did, I thought that was really pretty cool.
The rear camera washer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're backing up and you can't see nothing because
and
it's
it sprays
dirty.
a little windshield washer solvent on your rear camera lens to clean it off.
Wow.
It really makes a difference. I was really surprised.
Okay.
We also had the hands-free liftgate. We had the 20-inch wheels polished, and we had a nice big sunroof on it, dual exhaust with the chrome tips. It had a really nice look to it. It doesn't have the really wavy lines on it. It's more of what I would consider a classic look with a Cadillac. You go to the interior, and you're going to find we had the leather seating. The front seats were heated and ventilated, and we had the rear seats on the outboard side were also heated, which was a nice touch. We had a great big, nice 8-inch display for the convenience controls in the middle, for your air conditioner, your rear view camera, all those kind of things that you're going to do with the vehicle on the inside of it. But we also had an 8-inch display for the driver's info over there, so we had a lot of screens there. And we had the heads-up display, which I really liked. It was color, worked really well. And to put all this together, you had a Bose 14-speaker audio system that, with that nice, quiet Cadillac ride, really and truly filled that thing up with some quality sound. Not just loud, but there was some quality to it. Now, you get up under the hood to make all this thing go. You got a 3.6-liter V6, 310 horsepower, 271 pound-feet of torque, backed by a 9-speed automatic transmission. I thought a 9-speed, but with the V6 and the amount of power it's got, it really didn't search for gears or anything like some of the smaller vehicles do with the 9-speed and the smaller engines. The EPA says you should be looking for about 18 miles per gallon out in the city, 25 out on the highway, combined 20. I got right at 19 for the 450 miles that I put on it during the week.
That's pretty good.
A lot of it was out on the highway, obviously.
In what I call a large midsize SUV.
Yes. Now, one thing and it's not a hot rod by any means, but Cadillac says that it will do 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds. Now, that's more than enough time, more than enough get up and go to merge traffic and do anything else you want to do with it. It does have 3 drive modes. You can get a tour, or the snow ice, and a sport mode. Now, the sport mode is only available if you get the all-wheel drive model. We had front-wheel drive, so that wasn't an option for us. But I really like driving it because I felt like I was driving a Cadillac, old-school Cadillac, back when they were really big behemoths running down the road that you felt like you were in a luxury vehicle. If you're looking for something to compare it to, you might look at the Lincoln Aviator. Aviator. It starts at around $51,100 and goes up.
In Neaterville.
And then you might also look at an Audi Q7 that starts at around $54,800. So you can get a base XT6 starting at $52,695. Now, the XT6 that we were testing, it was the base model at $52,695, but it stepped up to that premium front-wheel drive model with a few options. So the MSRP as tested is $69,585.
All right, thank you, sir. And we've got the car calendar and the race card coming up next.
911, what's your emergency?
There's a train that just hit a car.
Sir, what is your location? Look around for a street sign, sir.
It's 8th and Orchard. 8th and Orchard.
Okay, very good. 8th and Orchard. Sir, help is on the way.
Why would he do that? The train still doesn't stop. You have to get there now.
At a railway crossing, even if the engineer sees you and hits the brakes, it can take a mile for the train to stop. And for you, that's too late. Stop. Trains can't. Paid for by NHTSA.
It is the In Wheel Time Car Show. We thank you very much for joining us on this Saturday. We are live every Saturday from 10 until noon, 10 a.m. to noon Central Time. So we encourage you to join us every Saturday. Right now, Conrad's got this week's car calendar and the race card.
Well, the race card, the biggest news is tonight at Houston Motorsports Park is going to be NASCAR. Don Armstrong is going to be driving the pace car.
Woo!
He's going to be taking his 2001 Corvette out on the track.
Classic
2001 Corvette out on the track. And you're also going to be doing the interviews in Winter Circle.
Winter Circle interviews.
So that should be pretty cool. If you're looking for something to do tonight, that's the place to go. Masks are required. They're going to have hand sanitizer. 6. Racing starts at 7.
Yeah.
Dollar beers, dollar Cokes, dollar hot dogs. So it's a good value to bring the family.
I agree.
Other stuff going on is there's plenty of area dirt tracks around. And to talk about some of the stuff that's going on, the 105 Speedway tonight up in Cleveland, they're going to have races. Gulf Coast is off until next weekend. The Texana Speedway down in Edna, they're having races tonight as well. Indy cars next week is going to be the Indy 500. They're qualifying for Indy this week. Yes, Memorial Weekend was put off, and they're doing.
Are there going to be? Is there going to be anybody in the stands?
No,
nobody in the
there's
stands.
Nobody in the stands, but it's going to be a big television event. I've been to the Indy 500 a couple of times.
Me too.
And you definitely want to be there, but understanding the issues.
But from a driver's perspective, they don't really hear anybody. Do
I
they?
was there. I was in turn 1 the year Danny Sullivan did the spin to win.
Oh, how cool.
And literally the crowd got louder than the cars, and those cars are ripping loud.
Yes.
But it was actually pretty awesome. But no, they don't hear or see the fans.
I'm sure they can. They don't even see them, like when they're coming out of the turn. They don't.
At 200 miles an hour, they
well,
are
not by
looking.
Space, but I mean they can tell that there's people there or not.
Probably,
I'm
but I
asking.
doubt that's their focus.
Well, that's probably
I'm
true.
sure they're really not paying attention to that. They're
You ever been
looking
to an
somewhere
IndyCar
down.
race?
Do what?
Have you ever been to an IndyCar race?
No, sir.
Yeah, the speeds are pretty intense.
Yeah.
So IndyCars is going to be the Indy 500, and Royce is going to be the driver of the C8 Corvette, the head of General Motors. He's actually going to be driving the car for the pace car. And then Spanish Grand Prix in Barcelona is tomorrow as well in Formula One. Daytona International Speedway tomorrow for NASCAR. The NASCAR guys are going to be driving on the Daytona road course that has been IMSA and
Oh, that ought to be great.
all of that. So that's the first time they've actually driven the road course for NASCAR. So that's going to be pretty unique, and that should be a lot of fun. Heartland Park is this weekend as well for NHRA. but a couple of them I think have been canceled. Calendar of events, there's a Labor Day show in Alvin at the Garage Bar and Grill. On the 26th is the third annual Car and Bike Show in Montgomery, and then the big thing is Woody's second annual Waterfront Car Show at Topwater Grill in San Leon, and I'm getting the wiggly finger, so I'm done.
If you're a member
back
of
to you, Don.
If you're a member of a car, truck, or Jeep club, you can put your group in our car club spotlight. Just email the club's information and contact name and number, and we'll take it from there. The email address is info@inwheeltime.com. And we've got more of the In Wheel Time Car Show after a quick break.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Is your business or company looking to stand out in a crowded advertising market? Looking to reach the real auto enthusiast? Well, you found it. You're listening or watching In Wheel Time, and so are your fellow enthusiasts. The In Wheel Time Car Show now reaches 500,000, and we can put together a marketing plan that will engage them in your product, business, or service. To get the tires rolling, just shoot us an email to our marketing director, Jeff Zekin. His address is jeff@inwheeltime.com. Well, howdy, live from Studio A. Welcome to In Wheel Time, your all things automotive car talk show, along with Mike Out of This World Mars and King Conrad DeLong. I'm Don Armstrong. So glad that you could join us today. We've had a technical issue with our Zoom feed, and Zoom, I guess, had been around before COVID, but it certainly it became part of everybody's vocabulary after everybody got locked down with the COVID-19 thing. And
Well, I do Zoom meetings at work as well.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kids are using it for school, and it's become pretty commonplace.
Would have been a good thing to invest in back in January.
Yeah. Who was to know? Who was to know?
China. Sorry.
Yeah.
I probably need to behave.
Let me do that again.
China.
China.
It's 3 syllables.
China.
China.
Okay, so I wanted to make mention, and he just mentioned it. Houston Motorsports Park. They became part of the NASCAR Home Track Series.
And how great is that, though, to have that association with NASCAR?
Well, it is, and there's certain conditions, certain things that they have to rules,
requirements.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. So big race tonight, Houston Motorsports Park, and if you've never been up there, I would encourage you to consider going.
Super simple to get to.
Super simple. It's off of the East Sam Houston Tollway, and you go west on North Lake Houston Parkway. It's really at the southern end of Lake Houston, and it's easy to get to, and it takes you about 2-3 minutes from the Beltway to get there. It's a great facility. It's a 3/8 mile.
Free parking.
Asphalt oval, and it is part of the Texas Short Track Racing Series. That is a series that Gina Child-Knowles, good friend of mine, has put together, and she's put together a great evening of racing. And so racing gets the green flag at 7 o'clock, and then last time, 2 weeks ago, we were all done by 9:30. So it's not a lingering thing. Of course, a lot of it has to do with how much liquid is applied to the track after a wreck. But
I thought you were saying how much liquid is applied to the fans, because it's going to be $1 Coke, $1 hot dogs, and $1 beers.
Yeah, it's a family event, and bring the kids, mask up, social distancing, sanitizers available
Come out and have
there.
fun, because it's going to be a blast.
Yeah, it will be. And great crowd a couple of weeks ago, and we're hoping that is going to be a great crowd tonight. That flyover was really, really cool.
And they're going to do it again this time.
Yeah, they're going to do it again.
And then September 26th, I also mentioned this, is Woody's second annual car show at
San Leon.
In San Leon at Topwater Grill.
Woody's Waterfront Car Show is what it's called.
And they're going to be giving out 60 awards. we ate there last year at the end of the show.
We broadcast.
They're going to have great food.
Yeah.
They have wonderful Bloody Marys before the event.
Now, speaking of which, the show.
No, I don't want to. I want to talk about the Bloody Marys.
We're going to come back around to that.
But no, you interrupted the Bloody Mary story. We need to go on with that.
We had quite a few Bloody Marys before the show, and it served us well because it made the show a lot of fun.
Mars?
That it did.
Yes, it did.
So what we're talking about is, at the Waterfront Grill, if you haven't been there, and it's located at 815 Avenue O, then it's right there on the point, and it's right there on the water. And so out on the point, there's a pavilion. It's not really a pavilion.
It's a pavilion.
Yeah, So, but they've got a bar set up out there, and it's all open on the sides. It's really nice.
And you can go sit in out of the sun if you want to.
So don't bring any alcohol. No alcohol allowed. There will be alcohol available, but you just can't bring it with you. Yes. And so we were there, and we set up and we did it, and we've got some video from that we're not going to be able to share today, but we're going to reschedule Woody as well, and we'll do all that. So this year, though, they're going to give away 60 awards.
Is it the end of September?
Yes.
26th.
26th.
9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And they've got pre-30s through 2020 vehicles for the awards, over 60 of them. They're going to have a band. Jim's Shuffle Band is also going to be playing. So where we were at the pavilion, and that's where we're going to set up again this year, they're going to be at the other end of the parking lot, down by the entrance where you come in.
Okay.
So it's not going to be really a big conflict.
We're not going to be stepping on them or them stepping on us.
No, So that's going to work out really well. And they're going to have some food available out there like we did last year. And there's going to be T-shirts for the first 50 people that register.
Get a free T-shirt.
Yep.
If you get there early enough, register your car.
How much is it to show your car?
I think it's $25.
$25, yes.
Okay.
And you can get a hold of Woody, Michael Wooding at 281-636-6879.
Who's going to remember that?
Or email at classicexpert@outlook.com.
So we can put that up on our Facebook page along with his flyer. We'll put all that up there.
But you can also register the day of the show.
We're telling you this so you can go ahead and plan on this. And, like us, I'm sure you're wondering, well, what about, social distancing and all that? Well, apparently all that's worked out.
Well, this is also outdoors as the race is outdoors. So the rules are a little bit different.
Well, so is Pac-10 football outdoors, but they canceled that whole season.
That's Pac-10. Who cares about Pac-10? All I'm worried about is Big 12.
Okay.
Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooners, yeah. So, but you go to a car show, and, other than the tables and stuff where under the pavilion, you're out, you're walking around, you're looking at the cars. Feel free to wear a mask if you want to. But, there's a certain amount of just social distancing that goes on at a car show because you don't want to get up against somebody's car. You don't want to be rubbing it. You don't want to scratch it on it and stuff. And you just make a little more distance than you might typically do when you're talking to the owner.
Well, I think that the real hook here is the scenery.
Oh, because you're right on the water.
Right on the point out there on the water. And the restaurant.
Awesome food.
Was it Top Water?
Top Water Grill.
Awesome food.
Yeah, great seafood, good service there. And it's a fun event that'll take up a Saturday. And
if you're not going to bring your car, bring your boat because they have boat parking there
that's right,
go
they
to
did.
the restaurant.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So if you don't want to bring a car, bring a boat.
If you got saltwater pizzazz.
Yeah. And
When
they have
that boat that I had.
So the salt will make the crabs last longer. They'll preserve the crabs.
So Woody was telling me that the Topwater Grill has they've also worked on their outdoor seating. They had they do a lot of fishing tournaments there, so they had some outdoor seating there already. But
for crabbing.
I don't know if you can crab there or not, but I'm sure if you went on the other side of the tracks over
we
there,
used to use chicken necks for crabbing.
Yep.
And then there was this girl. No, never mind. There was that wasn't that didn't
Send
have
your
anything
comments
to do with
to info@inwheeltime.com.
But it's
So Jeff's put a sign out over there on August 28th. Jeff's band is going to be at the Marina Bar in Galveston.
I'm going to hide behind this.
I'm looking for a reason to change the subject, and you gave it to me.
Oh, let's not change the subject. Let's go here. Let's go ahead and
But Woody's is going to be a hoot.
Let's go
and
in-
you need to come out.
Let's go ahead and talk about all of those things that you never really wanted to talk about before.
It was a great show, and they had some cool cars out there last year. They had a beautiful yellow Rally Oldsmobile 1970 Oldsmobile Rally 350 there. I brought it. It was mine. But the other thing that was there was that 69 L88 Corvette. That was a real well-documented 69 L88 Corvette race car. That was pretty cool. So lots of stuff. We're out there. We will post up some pictures of what was at Woody's last year, so you can see what to expect this year. We had a wonderful video created by a friend of Michael Wooding to show on the show today, but we can't get Zoom up, so we'll probably post it on our Facebook page and our website and the website, so you can kind of see what it is.
You know the problem that we had with Zoom?
Thanks for being under the table. Oh. Well, here we go. Maybe we found what's disconnected.
No.
Was it really?
No.
Was it really?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not connected to anything. I just thought it'd make you think for a minute.
Well, but thanks, Don. I appreciate that.
Well, you know, we try to keep it stirred up around here at the In Wheel Time Show.
And do a very, very good job.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, we haven't been
because that would have been on you if that was disconnected. Because that's
it's going to wind up being
on
me.
Your table.
No, it will wind up on me. I guarantee you it will. You know, I haven't been married all these many times not to learn a little lesson, and it is always me.
Well, look at this.
Check this out.
See, you plug that in and it works. So these are the cars that were at Woody's last year. Nice and a full range of cars from the 20s all the way up until the 2000s. So some real neat iron out there.
Yeah, really.
Yeah,
that is
remember that
nice
there was
stuff.
that yellow '69 Camaro as well. That
Yes, there was.
Stunningly beautiful.
Greg Enders brought out his car. As a matter of fact.
his truck. Didn't his truck win? His truck won
His-
overall.
Yeah, it did. With the leather floor mats. Not mats. It was
leather floor and the leather
floor.
headliner.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So this, you can kind of see the pavilion back there in the background where everything's going to be.
Well, you know, I think that,
headquartered out of.
as I mentioned, I think that the really cool thing about it is
we
it's
had
right
the
out
CTSV guy on the show.
right out there on the point, and it's a laid-back, fun show. Most of the cars
Here's
were
that
driven.
L88.
Most of the cars were driven there. That one probably was not.
Actually, I think it was because it drove off the property. He might have drove off the property into a trailer.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't know.
This is Greg's truck.
That's Greg's truck.
This is the overall winner, this C10, and I don't know how much video they're going to show of it. Oh, my gosh, is that truck gorgeous.
It is.
That truck is stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And
but what do you expect? You know,
still,
here's the rest of it. Look at the
there's
sparkle and the shine and all the jewelry underneath there.
Yep.
And then
Oh,
I'm sorry, I said yellow. It was the white 69 Z28.
My car.
And when Don lusted after.
Yes.
So yeah, it
as
was,
well as the purveyor.
and you can kind of see some more of the atmosphere
Bloody
and
Marys.
the restaurants there in the background over there in the bay. So it's really nice, really outdoor, particularly if you get a nice cool breeze like we had last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really nice.
Yeah, it's probably a good reason that I might not go this year.
And this is
because
Biff's
of the
car. We see Biff's car quite frequently at
Bloody
different
Mary
places.
temptation.
Well,
because you know me and temptation. That's not good.
The other thing they're going to do, they're going to have a drone. The guy that did the video work, he's going to be out there this year. He's going to have a drone with him to kind of get some more overhead, which ought to be really some great shots with water on both sides.
And he's what? Do you remember the guy's name? Because
he's got a title card in here.
He's the one who did this video for us, and kind of maybe did a new lead-in video for the show that we're probably going to integrate as soon as we get the time to put it together. But again, Woody's is definitely worth the trip, and it's a bit of a trip because when you leave 45 headed to San Leon,
Spotlight
Media Creations.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So Woody's Waterfront Car Show, and it is September the 26th, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Saturday.
Okay. You can get more information on the inwheeltime.com.
9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
And on Facebook.com. Okay. Now I want to pause just for a moment and tell you about the podcast that is coming up. And that's going to be airing on Monday, August the 24th. and it is called Bring Back Bronco, The Untold Story. And it is an 8-part series, and on Monday the 24th, we are partnering with this company that's putting together this podcast, and we're going to be offering you the opportunity to download episode 1 of this podcast on Monday, August the 24th, beginning at 1 p.m. Central. It'll be, and I'll give you all of the podcast channels if you're looking for a podcast. But you should look for this podcast. The narrator, the host, is Sonari Glinton. He is formerly with NPR. He does a fantastic job of bringing you into the untold story of the Bronco. And whether you're a Ford fan or a Bronco fan, it doesn't make any difference. You are listening or watching to this show because you're a car fan,
right,
as we all are.
And there's a lot of history to learn that he brings to the podcast.
Yeah, that truly.
And I think people don't understand a lot of the history of the Bronco and how it was developed chasing the International Scout, but other things around it in its development
and
that
it
made it so special.
And it being chased by the police out in L.A.
But that was the Bronco based on the F-150. The original Bronco was a short wheelbase little truck, and then as it advanced has become a monster in the Baja series. Even the old ones that so many people are still racing in Baja.
So this episode 1 is part 1 of an 8-part serial with the 50-year odyssey of blood, sweat, and dirt. Takes you from dizzying heights of the post-war boom to the most watched police chase in American television history, of course, the O.J. Simpson chase, and this year's rebirth of the Bronco. And, all of the pre-orders are already gone on the Bronco and the new Bronco that's coming out.
And there's 3 of them.
Yes.
There's a 2-door, there's a 4-door, and then there's the Sport.
Right. But, it's a pretty exciting thing to have a vehicle that so many people are familiar with that's been gone since 1996, but it's coming back.
Right.
It's kind of like when the Camaro was gone for so long, and when in its return, it made huge, major headlines. In the auto industry, this doesn't happen very often.
And there's a demand for the Bronco to come back, and Ford's kind of reaching that demand. And there's a huge following and loyalty of the Bronco, whether it's the Gen 1 or the Gen 2s. And I think there was altogether about 5 gens.
So, again, that's going to be Monday, August the 24th, available at 1 p.m. on these podcast channels, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, TuneIn, Google Podcast, Podcast Addict. So you go there, look for In Wheel Time, and on Monday, August the 24th, boop, it'll be there on our In Wheel Time channel. So we encourage you to check that out. Boom, it was there.
That's a technical term.
Yeah, wish we had a little bit of that with Zoom today. Anyway, we've got more of the In Wheel Time show right after a quick break.
A social distancing tip.
While the CDC urges you to avoid close contact, like hugging or shaking hands, there are other non-physical ways to say hello. Wave, wink, use sign language, salute, smile, give the peace sign, throw up an air high five, do jazz hands. Remember, stay a minimum of 6 feet or 2 arms length away from others, and stay home if you can. For more info, visit coronavirus.gov.
Let's all do our part, because we're all #alone together. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the In Wheel Time car show. We appreciate it, kind of wrapping things up here on this Saturday. We're on the air live every Saturday from 10 to noon Central Time. All right, time now for this week's Mystery Garage. And I got 3 for you. This is from Car Guy Garage, actually, these pictures. And I thought that this would be a garage that, you got a really cool car. Your garage is jam-packed. It's got all sorts of stuff in it, mainly Car Guy stuff. But look at the space he's got to work with. Clearly, he's got the car pulled in there nose first, and you're getting to see the back end of it because he's doing some sort of work on it. But I want you to look at the garage itself. It's a one-car garage, and I know that Jeff Zekin has got houses in his neighborhood that have one-car garages. And I normally don't look at things like that, but there are more one-car garages around these days than I've really paid any attention to.
When you start looking for them,
Yeah.
you see them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you really don't notice
And they're
them.
relatively new homes, too. One-car garages. So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool. Okay, the next picture. This is a picture.
It'll come.
This is a picture that reminds me of a very good friend of mine who's deceased now. His name was Bob Green, and he was the Astros radio engineer for decades, back in the Gene Elston days and all of that. And he had a home over in the Memorial area, and he had a 2-car garage, but he needed more space. And he couldn't spread out left or right, couldn't make it any further wider to make it a 3-car garage, except he had space in the back of the property, so he extended the garage in the back. So it would be 2 cars, nose to tail, and then the other one over to the side. And this kind of reminds me of that, because this is a 2-car garage, but clearly there's an extra room in the back there.
The toy storage.
Kind of a drive-through.
Yeah,
the
you
back
drive
wall.
through. Yeah. So if you got the car that you're working on all the time, and you want to have your regular 2 cars that the wife has and that you have in the garage,
So you can hide your toys back there from your wife.
Yeah.
well, there's that.
Or if you just you don't have
But
to
you'll
move them.
notice that back there he's also got things on the wall.
Looks
and
like he
he's-
stole a street light from somewhere. Stole a stop sign from somewhere, a couple of street signs.
And this is another picture that I came up with. In this, I thought was really cool. This is the Texaco picture, Jeff. And this I thought, what would be really cool would be and you know that these facades are in some junkyard somewhere, some of them porcelain, some of them painted, but to actually take your garage and on one wall make it the old Texaco station. Why not? You
Or
could
golf or mobile or whatever it is, yeah.
Because you know that these facades are still, they're somewhere, kind of like that place out in Las Vegas where all those famous casino signs are
Oh, yeah.
in that guy's one place that
Except
you can take a tour of.
all of the real good ones are probably out at Hemi Hideout because I'm sure John has collected any of the real good ones.
Well, I also like the Ranchero in this one.
I love the
That-
Ranchero.
That fit the
old
entire.
Coca-Cola machine.
Yeah.
Just a collection of era-appropriate stuff.
I just thought it was really cool. So thank you, Car Guy Garage, for the picks this week, and we'll have more from the Mystery Garage in the weeks to come. Time now for This Week in Automotive History, and Conrad's got that.
So this week in automotive history, Rudolf Diesel received a patent for the internal combustion engine.
There's a man named Diesel.
And he...
Not Vin.
No, not Vin. In 1898, he got his patent for the internal combustion engine. In 1901, the first automobile trip up Pikes Peak, Colorado, was done in an 1899 Locomobile steamer, and it climbed the 14,110 feet. And actually, if you've ever watched Jay Leno's Garage, Jay actually duplicated that feat in a 1899 Locomobile steamer as well, but I think he struggled a little bit because water boils at different temperatures as you go up in the altitude. So, and you got to refill it with water on the way up. In 1907, the first taxi cab took to the streets in New York City, marking the beginning of the love-hate relationship with taxi cabs in New York. Honk, honk. In 1908, Henry Ford's first Model T, affectionately known as the Tin Lizzie, rolled off the assembly line in Detroit, Michigan. In 1935, Mrs. Murrow Whitestone had the last U.S.-built Rolls-Royce delivered to her home on this day.
I didn't know they build Rolls-Royces in the United States.
Rolls-Royce was manufactured up until 1935 in Springfield, Massachusetts. It was just a remote production facility. They still built cars in England, but they had a remote production facility in Springfield, Massachusetts.
I had no clue.
Yeah, the idea was if they broke down or anything, the people didn't want to ship them. I think they did once or twice ship some back to England to get them fixed. They decided no, because of the level of customer service. They created this place in
That's why we do
Massachusetts.
this segment. We learned something. In 1962, Chrysler Corporation was the first auto company to set an industry milestone, announcing a 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty in 1962, which I thought was pretty interesting, and now they've kind of gone back to that as well. In 65, the Ford Bronco, which was introduced this week. So kind of all this timing about Bronco is pretty cool. The first Chevy Camaro drove off the manufacturing floor in Norwood, Ohio in 1966. The Hungarian Grand Prix was the first race held inside the Iron Curtain in 1986. And then in 1988, director Francis Ford Coppola released the movie Tucker, The Man and His Dream.
Okay, thank you, sir. We've got this week in automotive news coming up in just a sec.
GTG, BRB, OMW, be there in a few. You may think that these kinds of texts are fine because of their length, and you can easily send them at a stoplight. But no, answering one text can take your attention away from the road for 5 seconds. And traveling at 55 miles an hour, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Make good decisions, don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Texas Truck Works is your go-to truck customizer. From mild-to-wild lift kits, custom wheels, and steering and handling enhancements to the best personal and commercial wraps, Texas Truck Works delivers. Let Texas Truck Works founder Scott Stevens help you get the most out of your truck or Jeep. Texas Truck Works has decades of customizing experience, including power adders and complete engine swaps. Let the Texas Truck Works team design an upgrade plan that fits your budget. Get truck attitude today at TexasTruckWorks.com.
Welcome back. It's the In Wheel Time Car Show, wrapping things up on this Saturday. Don't forget that every Saturday we are live from 10 a.m. to noon Central Time, and we bust up the show into 4 different podcasts throughout the week. Mr. Mars posts those, so you can get it on all of our podcast channels, and we'll go over that in just a moment.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. We try to look forward to giving you as many opportunities to catch the show as you possibly can in different venues. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And we're flexible in how we do the show, which we had to be today, considering we couldn't do Zoom audio. But give us a little bit of news, Don.
So, Jeep is in a transformative period of time. By the end of 2021, Jeep will have a varied powertrain portfolio that plays in the electrified and diesel spaces, while its new 3-row options and redesigned Grand Cherokee bring fresh competition to the crossover world. On top of that, a V8-powered Wrangler appears close, which could add an intriguing option in the off-road war with the Bronco. While
that thing got a Hemi?
Yeah. While the premium Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer will play to American appetites for big utility vehicles, the foray into electrification could broaden Jeep's base. All Jeep models will offer electrification by 2022. All Jeep models. Yeah. Steve Wolf, dealer principal at Helfman Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat here in Houston, said the Wagoneer and the more upscale Grand Wagoneer are tailor-made for this market. He's committed to the future of the brand and is building a Jeep showroom at that store to highlight its products. So even dealers are investing in the Jeep brand.
Yeah, that's just south of 59 on Kirby.
No. Well, no.
Oh, you're talking about the one out on Beltway 8?
I-10 just outside the loop.
Outside 610,
yeah, that's Wolf's. Hyundai launching a global battery electric brand using the Ioniq name from its current hybrid and EV hatchbacks, which I thought was rather interesting since Cadillac is going to start their new naming scheme as IQ. All of the names of the cars will end in IQ, and here is one that's coming from Hyundai ending in
Ioniq. They don't duplicate. So you heard that Challenger is releasing Dodge is releasing the Challenger SRT Super Sport for 2020 here at the end of the year. It's going to be basically a drag race car with the Hellcat motor for $81,000.
It'd be like a Demon.
Right.
It's basically a street legal drag strip car.
Yeah, because the Demon was.
Are they going to sell it for street legal?
Yes.
Unlike the Chevy Camaro Z28.
Well, unlike the Copo Camaros, which aren't street legal, and the Demon was really never street legal either.
Well, the Copo Camaro is the Z28, is it not?
It's one of the Copos is a Z28.
Okay.
But so they're gonna release the SRT Superstock. So they're always releasing some collectible car. They're always releasing some collectible car on the Dodge side of things, you know.
Always, yeah. Well, it certainly has been an interesting show today, and we're glad that you hung in there with us because We don't know what we would do without you. Uh-oh. We don't want all that going on here. But I did want to, I don't
Why
know.
not? It's that day.
It's one of those
You
kind
could
of.
always just push the mute
You know,
button on that, Don.
and it's what the fun part about all of this is that it just kind of goes hand in hand with the rest of the day.
Our lives.
That's it for today's In Wheel Time Car Show. When you're on Facebook, please give us a like and tell your friends about us. You'll get Conrad's unicorn hunting features, along with all things automotive, all week long, as a matter of fact. The In Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, and InWheelTime.com. Podcasts available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, iHeart Podcast, Google Podcast, and Podcast Addict. Special thanks to all of our guests that didn't make it on the air today.
Yeah,
the
apologies.
The In Wheel Time Chief Engineer is the fabulous David Ainsley, who we wish were here. Our video and marketing man is Jeffrey Zekin. The In Wheel Time Car Show produced and directed by somebody other than me. For booking agent and podcast man, Mike Out of This World Mars, and his royalty king Conrad DeLong, I'm Don Armstrong saying so long for now, and we hope you'll join us live every Saturday, 10 a.m. to noon. We'll try to get it right next week. Thanks for being part of the In Wheel Time family. Enjoy your weekend. Mask up, be fabulous, wash those nasty hands, stay sanitary. See you tonight at Houston Motorsports Park for Asphalt Circle Track Rating. For now, that's it. Have a good week.